And Sahar, whenever you're ready, let me know and I'll start the PowerPoint.
I'm ready. Let's get started. I'm excited to talk to everyone and meet with everyone this morning. Thank you for joining us. So today we're going to talk about tools and techniques that can help with more effective weight loss. My name is Sahar Tamari. I am a intern as part of the dietetics internship at CSUN. And I also have my master's in family and consumer sciences with an option in nutrition and dietetics. And so just an overview of what we will be discussing. So let's start with talking about MyPlate. And MyPlate is the latest nutrition guideline. Oh no, let's go back to the overview, sorry. So MyPlate is the latest nutrition guideline from the USDA. And we'll also be talking about food choices for weight loss and food substitutions that will reduce energy intake. The goal is to lower calorie intake while controlling hunger, and also to build healthy eating habits, one goal at a time. And one of the basics of weight loss is to burn more calories than you eat in a day to create a deficit. And we'll talk about tools that we can use to create this deficit without, feeling deprived or overly hungry. So different techniques that will help us work more efficiently towards our goal of losing weight. So our next slide, please. So MyPlate. Again, MyPlate is the latest nutrition guideline from the USDA. It is divided into 4 sections. This is really what our plate should look like at each meal. Each portion sizes will be different based on gender and age, and we'll talk more about that a little bit later. But really, we're looking at the overall plate and really what should be on the plate at each meal, or even snacks can be this should be taken into consideration during snack times too. So it is divided into 4 sections. We want 30% of our meal to be grains, preferably whole grains, which would be like whole wheat bread over white bread or brown rice over white rice. And we will discuss more. 40% of our plate should be vegetables, 10% fruits, and 20% protein, and a small circle representing dairy. And again, portion sizes really do depend on the individual. And if we go to the next slide, so a really great tool that we can use that will help each individual know more about what their portion sizes should be, daily recommendations based on their age and gender, is the MyPlate app. You can find it on any app store for smartphones like iPhones or Android phones. You can just go and download the app. In the app, you can set simple food goals and meet those goals. So again, you enter your information. Based on your information, it'll tell you what your goals are each day. As far as your nutrition goes, you can check off your daily goals to make sure you reach those goals. And you learn more about different food groups. You see, for example, like popcorn is a grain, and we don't necessarily think of popcorn as a grain, but it is a grain. So it does help us see what category the foods we're eating, what category those foods fall into. So highly recommend this app. There's also recipes and different aspects of the app will help you reach your goal. So if we go to the next slide. So food choices for weight loss. Really, we want to, there's different food categories that will that are part of our diet, and there are better options in each category. For example, if we talk about fruits, Eating a whole fruit as opposed to drinking a fruit juice or eating a dried fruit is always a better option. Fruit juices contain more sugar. Sorry, there's a car passing by. Sorry about that. So if we talk about fruits, eating the whole fruit is always a better option as opposed to drinking the fruit juice or eating a dried fruit. Fruit juices generally contain more sugar and have little to no fiber, which the whole fruit actually does contain. Frozen fruits are always a great option, and they could be more affordable. You can find fruits that are not generally not in season, but frozen, like such as frozen berries. That you can mix, or use in your recipe. So frozen fruits are always a great option, and I do recommend eating the whole fruit over the juice. Veggies. So we all pretty much have a list of go-to veggies that we're comfortable and familiar with, but it's always nice to try different vegetables. You might enjoy the taste, experiment with, make it part of your experience to try new vegetables, different color vegetables. Each vegetable has a different vitamin that it, can add to your diet. And vegetables are just a great way to fill up without getting too many calories, and great way to experiment in adding them to your meals. So vegetables are you can cook a variety of colorful vegetables, make extra vegetables and save some for later, use them in stews, soups, and pasta dishes. So it's a great way to add vitamins to your diet without getting too many extra calories. And proteins. When I say vary your protein routine, that's just adding different types of proteins. Again, a lot of us are just comfortable with eating certain proteins throughout the day. We always go back and revert to the same foods, but I do encourage you to try new foods so that you don't get bored with the routine and it's easier to stick with the program. Protein would just be your meat, poultry, seafood, beans, eggs. Soy is considered a protein. Even nuts and seeds all count towards your protein. Like we said earlier, make half of your grains whole. For example, you can add brown rice or substitute brown rice for white rices, and try, whole grain tortillas, whole grain sliced bread, and even popcorn, like I said, is considered a whole grain. So look into, in our further discussions in the upcoming weeks, we'll go into more details about the different foods in these food groups and ways to incorporate them into your diet. The next recommendation would be to substitute low-fat or fat-free milk for yogurt. For milk and yogurt, low-fat and fat-free options have less calories and will help you reach your goal. And overall, we want to decrease the amount of sodium, saturated fat, and added sugars in our diet, and that will help us reach our goal. We want half of our plate to be fruits and vegetables, half of our grains to be whole grains, and yeah, we can go on to the next slide now. So food substitutions that will reduce energy intake. Like I said, creating that deficit is really one of the most important principles to lose weight, where we can decrease the amount of calories we're taking in without really eliminating the nutrition is what we want to work towards. So a good example of that is having cauliflower rice instead of white rice. You can take just a whole head of cauliflower, chop it up in small pieces, and use some nonstick spray, saute it for a few minutes. And it's not the same consistency, but it really is a great alternative to eating white rice. Another example of a food substitution would be using cut vegetables. A few of my favorites are carrots, celery, bell pepper, and cucumber. They all have the same crunch as like a potato chip or like a tortilla chip or Doritos. I know it doesn't taste the same, but it's always a great alternative. We do want to try to reduce the amount of soda and juice in our diet. Great way to do that would be to substitute water for soda or juice. Like we said earlier, substitute non-fat plain Greek yogurt for whole fat dairy. One example would be sour cream. So Greek yogurt also contains more protein than sour cream does. Greek yogurt's a great option for snacks or as a condiment or substitution for other dairy foods. Another option would be using mustard or lemon juice instead of mayonnaise or other full-fat dressings and sauces to marinate our food or to add as a condiment on salads or a dressing on salads and other foods. And instead of using oil or butter, use nonstick cooking spray. Like we said earlier, and you know, there's a lot of different types of nonstick cooking sprays. There's canola oil nonstick cooking spray, olive oil nonstick cooking spray. I've even seen like a coconut oil nonstick cooking spray. So you can play around with the different types of nonstick cooking spray, see if any of them add flavor to the food, or maybe it's not something you really enjoy and try a different one. So I feel like the canola oil nonstick cooking spray is probably the most neutral tasting, doesn't add very much flavor, doesn't take away from the flavor of the food that you're trying to cook. So that's always a really great option to start with. Other swaps that you can make are like an entire orange instead of orange juice, or seltzer instead of soda, or another great one is adding creamer to your coffee and really controlling the amount of creamer instead of ordering like a vanilla latte. You don't know what they're using, or not that you don't know what they're using, but you don't know how much they're using. And it's nice to be able to control what you're eating and add that creamer or sugar, if that's what you prefer, to your coffee yourself. Another substitution would be using or having turkey bacon instead of pork bacon, and again, low fat or skim milk instead of whole milk. So these are just a few of my recommendations to lower calorie intake. Next slide, please.
We did have a question from Kate. So the question
Yes.
was, where do fats and oils and nuts go on MyPlate?
That's a great question. So if we go back to the MyPlate page, so these are the different food groups, and each food group, so protein would contain its own amount of fat. I believe grains, when you cook grains, or some grains just contain a certain amount of fat. This is something that I can answer for you next week. I can have a better answer for you, but each food group will have its own amount of fat with it. But this is just generally what the plate should look like. If you can just, I'll write down the question and I'll have a better answer for you. So nuts and oil and fats, right?
Correct.
Nuts, oils, and fats. Okay, that's a great question. I'll have a more thorough answer for you guys next time we meet together. But I would say that, Dr. Lissagor, can you help me with this? Where would I would fit nuts into the protein section?
Absolutely fit nuts into the protein. And when you're looking at MyPlate, one of the things you can do is it has a subdivision. There's a vegan or a vegetarian MyPlate as well. So it's a little tiny bit different, but just put them in the basic food group. So and that's automatically calculated in.
Okay. I can, if anyone has like a special diet that they're on, if they want to email me, we can put my email up, and I can do more research on what their MyPlate would look like and present that either to them or to our whole group if there's more than one individual that's interested in seeing the different MyPlate guidelines. So we can go back. Were there any other questions? What are your thoughts on, sorry, what's the question? What are your thoughts on plant-based butter, like olive oil butter or avocado oil? Thank you, Jasmine, for your question. I believe the oils and fats have a separate category, which should be eating sparingly. Okay. Should I answer questions throughout our presentation, or should we take questions at the end?
We can answer Jasmine's right now, and then as you go along, if it seems suitable, we can throw in the questions. You're on mute.
Oh, sorry about that. Sorry. Dr. Lissagor, did you want to say something?
Yes, I did. So it's exactly what you said, Sahar, just moderation, if you remember that word from before. But what I would like to encourage people to do is, because the taste of butter and margarine are so different, go for what you like better for the taste. So go for butter. It acts different when you're cooking, when you're baking. There's a different set of properties to it for what the final food product will be. So whatever tastes better, works better for you, use that, and just use less. Just what Sahar said.
Yeah. Thank you, Jasmine, for your question. Were there any other questions that we can kind of cover before we get to the recap? No? Okay. So really what we're looking at in ways to try to meet our goal or work towards our goal of weight loss, and the overall picture and the message that we want to send is to eat minimally processed whole foods as often as possible. I know sometimes we're on the go and it's difficult and we want to reach for something that's a little bit more convenient, but our goal is to eat these whole foods that we're preparing as often as possible so that we can control what we're eating, what we're putting in our body. We know, how much oil we're using, how much salt we're using, how it's being prepared, whether it's being fried or grilled or sauteed. So really preparing the foods and eating these whole foods is one of the best pieces of advice that I can give. And really enjoy the highly processed foods sparingly. Soda, French fries, potato chips, white bread, candy bars, fruit juices, pastries, cookies, cakes, alcoholic beverages, ice cream. We all know what the foods are. And really, there are substitutions for each of these foods. If this is a food that you really enjoy and you want to incorporate it as part of your diet, first of all, it's okay to enjoy it. If you're going to have it, enjoy it, make it, have it, enjoy it, and keep moving, keep working towards your goal. That's what I would say. But you should also consider that there are alternatives to each of these foods. Like I said earlier, food substitutions that, it's not the same, but it's similar enough. If you have a craving for soda, you can have seltzer. French fries, make your own French fries, cut up a potato or even a sweet potato, use some nonstick cooking spray, put it in the oven. Potato chips are, like we said, the chopped up vegetables, white bread, consider having whole grain bread. Fruit juices have the fruit. Pastries, cakes, there are ways to make your own using almond flour, reduce the amount of sugar. We can, French fries in the air fryer. I love that. I have an air fryer too. Thank you. That's a great suggestion. I agree. French fries in the air fryer. Not everyone has an air fryer, but putting it in the oven with some nonstick spray also works really well. So get creative, think about different ways you can enjoy the foods that you do enjoy, and at the same time, try to reduce the amount of calories or reduce the amount of how processed that food is. Instead of buying a bag of frozen French fries, make your own. If you have that time, candy bars for sweet potatoes. Yeah, that's a good one too. I love your guys' suggestions. Thank you for helping me through this. I'm a little bit nervous right now, in case you can't tell. So I'm just trying my best to get through it. And really, research has shown that the most effective way to lose weight, besides creating that calorie deficit, is to combine aerobic physical activity. Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you guys so much. Combining physical activity, weight training, and the dietary changes. These three are really, when utilized together simultaneously, will help individuals more effectively lose weight. And I just, a little bit, few more tips that I have are to not measure success just based on what the scale says. Everyone's weight fluctuates on a daily basis. It's fine to use the scale to measure your success in weight loss, but also consider taking body measurements. And where the body measurements are taken are the upper arms, upper thighs, chest, abdomen, where the belly button is, and the hips. And then retaking measurements each month as a second way to measure results. We all, it's well known that muscle weighs more than fat. You could be building muscle, losing fat, but your weight might stay the same. Weight on the scale is not the only measurement to, the number on the scale is not the only measure for success as far as working towards your goal. So consider a second way to measure results. Another principle is consistency. One of the most important, as well as one of the hardest ways to lose weight, is being consistent. The lack of consistency is probably one of the top reasons most people don't achieve their weight loss goals. If you want to achieve your goals, you have to consistently work towards them. We all, fall off the wagon here and there occasionally, but it's important to get right back on. If you have a bad meal or if you have a bad day, it's okay. Just get right back on, keep going, work towards your goals. Use an app. Let's see, engage in weight resistance to add some muscles. Yes. Talk to your family. Yes. Dr. Loy says engage in weight resistance and training. You say that? Yes. Physical activity, weight training, and dietary changes. So those are really my, just to start, these are just some recommendations to measure your success and to work towards your goals of weight loss. And we can go to the next slide. So we do have some homework for our lovely participants. Our first homework assignment would be to download the MyPlate, choose MyPlate app, and also visit choosemyplate.gov. You see the website right there. There are so many pages and pages of recipes and ideas and tools you can use to get familiar with MyPlate. And also I want each of us to write down a convenient, well-balanced go-to snack or meal. The most important thing for this assignment is for it to be quick and easy to prepare, and ingredients that we will most likely have in our kitchen or pantry or in our refrigerator. Why I think this is a great tool to have these written down is because in moments where you are in a rush, running late, really hungry, so easy to grab that pre-prepared, processed food like a bag of chips or candy bar or even a soda. But if you have 10 minutes where you can prepare a meal or snack that's going to satisfy your hunger and feed your body what it really needs, it will help you in the long run to meet your goal. So these are the two homework assignments I have. And yeah, that's really, and we will go into more details about every different food groups next time. Again, if anyone has any questions right now, we love, myself and Dr. Lissagor with you, and we can help answer any questions anyone can have.
Recognize that one of the reasons why we wanted to include Sahar with her background is that opposed to the other sessions that we have, give you a longer opportunity to ask the specific questions that you have. So have at it here. Thank you, Sahar.
Thank you so much for having me and giving me this opportunity.
If you all have questions, you can enter them in the chat, or you can use the raise hand feature on Zoom, and then we'll call on you as you go along. Yes, thank you so much, Sahar. Great work.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Is there a specific, besides the different types of, oh yes, you spoke about a deficit. Let's see. See the chat. I'm just trying to, oh, chat, here we go.
So what is a safe deficit for weight loss?
Okay. So this is a very individualized question. It really depends on what your basal metabolic rate is and creating that deficit. It's a very, can under eating cause weight gain? Dr. Lissagor, do you want to chime in on this one?
I do, yes. So as Sahar said, we have a basal metabolic rate. So we use a certain amount of calories just for your heart to beat, just for your basal metabolism, and for your brain. And if we drop below what that number is, your body's first job is to preserve your life. So it's going to break down your lean muscle mass. That's not what you want to do. So you need to find out through a registered dietitian or a fitness expert, what is it that you need in order to maintain your basal metabolic rate. And you want to do it also slowly. So you take where you are, and let's say you're 400 pounds. You don't want to have your calorie intake to get to 200 pounds immediately. What you're going to do is slowly, as Sahar said. So you drop a small percent so that you're not starving, but you readjust, you reset your hunger mechanism and just cut back a little. I want to do one funny thing for you. So you know how Sahar said you want to you want to look at your mayonnaise and that sort of thing and reduce that? One thing that will give you a visual of helping to eliminate mayonnaise is, I call it pus. And so when you think about that and you squeeze out or you use the jar of mayo, think of pus. And I don't think you'll want to put it on your bread anymore.
Doesn't sound good anymore.
Is there a website that you could recommend for an estimate of resting or basal metabolic rate?
What I usually do, and this is so primary, it's that you take what your goal weight is, a realistic goal. So if I'm looking at a 6 foot person, 6 foot female, 25 years old, I would never recommend 2,000 calories. That's just not enough. So you take what your goal weight would be, that would be reasonable, multiply that by 10. So that's an easy mathematical project. And you're going to get approximately the number of calories that you're going to need.
That's a good one to remember. So everybody got that? Your weight times your goal weight.
Goal weight.
Where you want to get to times 10.
And that's basal metabolic. So you would never drop below that. And then you're going to look at what your activity level is. and you're going to multiply that. If you're a very active person, like a competitive athlete, you would also take your basal metabolic rate and multiply it by 10. So you'd add those two numbers together, and that's your total caloric goal. If you're a couch potato, you would multiply your basal metabolic rate times maybe 3, plus your other calculation. But as Satara said, every person has a different body type. So you want to just make sure you talk to somebody who's professional, who will individualize your learning. But the MyPlate that's Sahar recommends, or Choose MyPlate, those have good calculations for you.
Thank you, Dr. Lissagore.
Pleasure. Thanks for asking.
So we do have some other questions from Kate. Are there foods that help or hinder fat loss?
I'll try my best to answer this one if Dr. Lissagore has anything to add. I would say the processed foods with a lot of added sugar would probably hinder fat loss. That would be the top type of food. Foods that would encourage fat loss are, the whole foods that aren't highly processed, like a whole piece of fruit, a whole vegetable, piece of protein, whole grains, something that you prepare. I don't know if they would encourage, like make you lose fat faster, but eating these types of food would help you more effectively work towards your goal of losing weight. But I would say that the processed, high sugar, high saturated fat foods that are very shelf stable are probably going to hinder or stop fat loss. Dr. Lissagore?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're spot on with the processed foods, those are made specifically to be addictive. So if you think about having a potato chip, it makes you want to have more, but you can't eat just one. And that's a true thing. And then the other thing is that we have a yin and a yang. So if you've eaten something salty, then what we want to do is balance it out with something sweet. So we're always trying to balance that. But you've got it, Sahar. Perfect.
Thank you.
Next question is from Arlene. Is there a time where we should stop eating? For example, should we not eat after 7 p.m.?
There's a lot of conflicting opinions on this. I would say no. If you, and I think it depends on what the rest of your day look like. If you haven't had much to eat throughout the day and you're at a unreasonable calorie deficit, you don't want to be too much below your calorie needs, because you don't want to go to that point where you're starving and then that could possibly lead to binge eating. So I don't recommend not eating throughout the day, waiting till late at night to eat. I think it's important to be consistent, have your meals and snacks throughout the day, so at the end of the day you're not at that point of starvation where you're just reaching for anything. So I would say consistency is key. But if you haven't been able to be consistent, then go ahead and have your meal that will satisfy you, and try to work towards a goal of having consistent meals and snacks throughout the day, so you're not having all your meals at one time at the end of the day. Dr. Lissagore?
Yeah, absolutely spot on. You want to keep your blood glucose level steady throughout the day, and by having that snacking, that's a good thing. But also don't eliminate food groups. So you want to have protein, carbohydrate, and fat when you're eating. If you have, for example, just an apple, that's strong carbohydrate, but you're not getting any fat or protein in that. And so it'll only satisfy your hunger for a little while, and then you're going to be hungry again. So you got it.
But if you have an event planned, you know, we want everyone to live an enjoyable, we want you to enjoy this process. If this isn't enjoyable for you, or you're being too restrictive, again, we want to come up with a plan that everyone is comfortable and happy and can stick with. I mean, there are obviously going to be times where you're going to have to make that hard choice of choosing a food that'll help you work towards your goal as opposed to something that's a lot, you know, more, you know, like a processed food. So you will have to make hard choices as far as that, but we do want this process to be enjoyable, something you can stick with and be consistent with. So if you are at an event or you're at I mean, we're not everyone's having celebrations anymore because of this corona, but you know, if you're with your family, with your children, and there's food around, enjoy it, you know. But overall, we want you to be consistent with your meals and snacks throughout the day, so you're not saving all your calories for the end of the day and kind of overeating at the end of the day. So just try to have your meals throughout the day. Dr. Lissagor?
Yeah, and there are some foods that are tied to family traditions, cultural foods like the pan dulce that you're talking about. So if you're denying yourself that, then you're denying traditions. So again, that watchword is moderation. Allow yourself to be who you are. And all of the tools that Sahar talked about, the MyPlate, keeping track of those. And the important thing is to balance it out with exercise.
Rosalind, I see your question about eating beyond a certain time at night or before bedtime. So what we said earlier was I recommend eating throughout the day consistently, eating your meals and snacks throughout the day consistently. So when it is the end of the night, right before bedtime, you're not going to bed hungry, you're not starving. You know, we don't want you to miss meals throughout the day and go to bed feeling like you can't fall asleep because you're so hungry. It's important to try to eat consistently, try to eat well. And if you are at a celebration or you're with your family, enjoy it. Be with your family. I hope I answered your question, Rosalind.
I think the other alternative too is if it depends on what time you eat, right? If you eat too early and then you go to bed late, that there's a fairly long span time of there. So the thing to think about perhaps is that last snack is having that go-to snack that they spoke about earlier, and making that perhaps be that vegetable or fruit, something that will tie you over, not let you go to bed hungry, but then also not leave you feeling like, oh, you know, I shouldn't have ate that before I went to bed. So I think the strategy and planning ahead helps a lot.
Yeah.
I would actually like for everyone, if it's okay, to share their go-to meals. And I think it'll give everyone a great idea or suggestion of maybe something they can add to their diet that'll help them work towards their goal. That was my go-to meal, the one on the slide that I wrote about, I think it was 3 eggs, half an avocado, cut veggies, and a slice of whole grain toast.
You're saying the go-to healthy snack if I need something.
Go-to healthy snack, yeah, if I need something, yeah. Were there more questions?
Yeah, Desiree, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I went ahead and posted the 2 different methods for calculating the BMR, because these are the ones I used in the past. The Harris-Benedict equation is the first one, and then the second one is the Catch-McCardle equation. So I had to look at the at the names, but essentially, like, they give about the same. But I was just curious from your opinion, like from both of your opinions, and Sahar, which one is like a more effective method, or is there one?
I think that in research, it shows that the Harris-Benedict equation is what has been used to calculate BMR. I think Dr. Lissagor was making a suggestion to make it just much more straightforward. There's a little bit more math involved in this, but yeah, we use the Harris-Benedict equation when I was doing the peer nutrition counseling for CSUN students to calculate their BMR. So if you're comfortable converting weight to kilograms and height, and you're doing this, then yeah, the Harris Benedict, what you posted is a good way to calculate the BMR.
And then at that point, we essentially just multiply it by our activity, right? So
right. So there's an activity factor. I believe it's like 1.2, 1.5, depending on your level of like how often you exercise. So you multiply that to get the number of calories required basically for you to just be alive. That's what your body burns per day. And then you would subtract from that number, like let's say you subtract 300 calories, 3,500 calories is the number of calories you need to burn to lose 1 pound. So I'm not great with math, but let's use the number 500. If you subtract 500 calories from your BMR, then your number of calories that you need to just be alive, and then you would lose 1 pound of fat per week. Does that make sense? Because you're trying to reach 3,500, and if you're subtracting 500 calories, you would have a deficit of 3,500 calories per week in 7 days, and you would lose that 1 pound.
Okay. All right,
yeah.
cool.
So once you calculate your BMR, multiply it by the activity factor, you can either calculate it using the Harris Benedict that you posted or the technique that Dr. Lissagor mentioned. Exactly. 500 calorie deficit per day for 7 days is 3,500 calories is 1 pound of fat. That's exactly right. And you can make that adjustment based on what you're comfortable with. If you're not comfortable, if 500 calories is too much of a deficit, understandable, you can do a 250 calorie deficit, and you would lose 1 pound every 2 weeks, which is actually great progress and recommended. Yeah. So whatever your comfort level is, that's what you should, whatever you're going to be consistent with and stick with, that's what you should do.
Okay, cool.
Thank you for posting the equation.
Yeah, thank you both.
Another thing to consider is that we don't want to concentrate on the word weight. It's percent body fat. So what is it? What's the percent body fat that you have to your percent lean? And there are different instruments that you can use to calculate that, including a DEXA body fat machine, or you've probably heard of or seen people being dunked in a water tank. So you can see the difference between your body mass and your body fat, your lean muscle mass and your body fat and your water weight. So there are all different kinds of things to think about. One of the easiest to know if you're getting toward your fitness goal is you look at a pair of pants or some clothes that were tight, and you just see, how are you doing every week? Are they feeling more comfortable? So I would say throw out your scale.
Yeah, I want to talk on that really quick, everybody. Yeah, because it's so true. Like, I was 275 pounds this year versus last year, but like I fit into things like 3 sizes smaller. Like, so I'm the same weight, but like the body recomposition because of the training and stuff. Definitely. And my other question was, so when we're calculating the lean mass, is it what our lean mass is currently, or what maybe our goal lean mass is when we're doing, I imagine when we're doing the equation, we have to use our current lean mass, but is there a way to factor in what you should be eating if you already have like a goal lean mass, kind of? If that makes sense.
Sure. Do you want me to take that one?
Yes, please.
All right. So one of the things you want to do is look for your ideal body weight. And now I'm going back to body weight when I'm telling you not to use that. But this is for an approximation. So look at your ideal body weight and use that. But then you take what your current weight is, and you're going to subtract no more than 500 calories from that total. Otherwise, you're going to be going too low, and you're going to put yourself in an I'm hungry mode I'm starving mode, that sort of thing. So you want to do, just like Sahar said, step by step by step. And if you have access, like at the fitness center, access to measuring your lean body mass, that's really a good way to kind of get you on your goal.
Thank you.
One of the things that we talked about in a meeting yesterday is that with the challenge with body composition, and that even some of our students don't have scales, is that get away from that whole weight issue. And the way I do it is I just take these fingers, right, and I do a abdominal skin fold. So right next to your belly button, you just pinch what's there, and then you can slide it all the way around to your side, and you'll feel it. You'll feel the thickness of that fold change as you go from belly button to your side. And just get a feel for that. So you do this when you're in the shower, right? You just get a feel for that, move it around, and then you do this periodically, but get a feel for what the thickness feels like. And what you're going to find over time is that it'll change. It'll go from this big to a little bit less, and it changes differently. So don't worry about where it's changing, but typically about halfway around, there's a part where it gets skinny, and then it gets big again. All right. So just get a feel for that. And what you'll find is that that part that gets so skinnies down a little bit will start a little bit earlier and last a little bit longer. But that's a way to sort of get a sense of body composition. The commercials used to say that Special K, pinch an inch. There's some merit behind that pinch an inch idea. But that's one way that you can get to it. Even, we can see you doing it, Jenny. But it's a way to get to it if you can't get access to a scale, because then things are changing. And it's the same thing that Dr. Lisa Gore was talking about, is that's going to translate into the pants fitting a little bit differently. So use these at-home tools in the meantime until you can gain access to the fitness center that gives you a more exact measurement.
Another good way, like we discussed earlier, was to take the body measurements. This is similar to what Dr. Loy is saying. The parts of the body that we do want to measure are the upper arms, and please correct me if I'm wrong, upper arms, upper thighs, chest, abdomen, and hips.
I think if you do those, just be really specific about where it is. Do your anatomical or your body landmarks so that you make sure that you do it. Typically, it's the largest part. You get the largest part of the upper arms, largest part of the thigh, but be aware of that so that when you lay that tape around, that you do it parallel to the ground. Be aware of that, and then again, pay attention to your body landmarks so that you don't deceive yourself by measuring it in a different place, and then the next time it goes up instead of going down. So just be aware of that.
Okay, great. I also, I put my email in the chat. If anyone wants to reach out to me and wants me to help them calculate their BMR based using the Harris-Benedict equation, feel free to reach out and we can kind of go through it together and we can come up with what the answer is to the equation. Because it's so individual. There's no way for me to say everyone should be on, taking in this many calories with this deficit daily. It doesn't, that's not how it works. So
don't obsess with it. If you're doing the right thing, right? If you're doing everything that they are telling you, the moderation and the balance, so you're doing things right, and you're more active, then you're doing the right thing. It will change gradually. So just stay on that track and don't get obsessive about it.
Yeah. Were there any other questions for us?
Just
So
a quick
Sahar's going to be back next week and the week after. So if you get questions, write them down so that you can remember to ask them. I'm sorry, Desiree, go ahead.
Oh, no, it's okay. I was just going to agree with you, Dr. Loy, that, yeah, don't obsess, because that's what I did at first. And I became very obsessed with that equation and like how many calories. And in the result of it is I wasn't focusing on the balance and variety. And that's so important because, yeah.
Well, and you know, if you're doing your programs, so this goes back to the conversation yesterday. If you are actually doing your programs and doing your walking and writing these things down, keep track of what you're doing. So I know what, you know, Chris has assigned for me to do, and I know that that's above what I've been doing. So I'm all good, right? I'm doing more than I was doing. I know that if I'm walking or if I'm running, if I'm going a little bit faster, I know I must be doing the right thing. Things are changing. And so then again, you start to focus on your activity of what you're doing. And if those values are going in the right direction, then things are good. So do keep track of the things that you're doing. And when you add something on, it's something more than you were doing last week. So it's just the physics of it. The caloric balance is going to change. So that's where you can, you know, you give yourself a pat on the back. I am doing more. I've added a day extra of aerobic exercise that I was not doing the week before. Well, that's going to make a difference. You know, and again, you don't obsess that, oh, you know, that's 250 calories of walking. You just say, I'm doing, you know, 2 miles more than I was doing last week. That makes a difference.
And I think another important thing to note, I mean, just like with nutrition, where, you know, there'd be a day where maybe you don't eat the healthiest, but it's okay. Exercise is the same way. Don't expect to have a personal best or a new record of, you know, I walked 30 minutes yesterday, I'm going to walk 35 today, 40 tomorrow, 50, you know, it also doesn't work that way. If you have a down day where you only walk for 10, 15 minutes, that's okay too. There's a lot of paradigms that are similar between nutrition and exercise where it's okay if you fall off the wagon for a little bit as long as you keep going. It's that consistency over time. Desiree even put in there consistency and progressive overload over time. You're gradually making these changes. You don't need to do it, you know, cold turkey where that's it, no more sweets, throwing out everything out of my, you know, refrigerator, out of my pantry, you know, putting it into the dumpster, can't go after it. You know, same thing with exercise. You're not going to wake up and say, all right, today I'm running a marathon. It's all these little victories, these mini victories from day to day. And again, maybe it's not a victory every day, but over time, you're getting more victories than you are losses. And I think Dr. Lisa Gore had said, I think it was in the episode where she had talked about 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, but you're still 1 step ahead overall. And so it's those components that you need to really recognize that in the long run, in the long term, you are going to be ahead of the game.
And that is this value of these 365 days that we talk about. When we say we're going to do something in 2 weeks and we take 3 steps forward and 2 steps back, well then, wow, I'm only 2 steps ahead in 2 weeks, but that's that short-term mentality. Look at it for the long haul, just like Josh said, and that now you're 365 steps ahead. So really keep this in mind. Be consistent. There are good days, there are bad days. There are days, I call them fit days and I call them healthy days. Okay, a fit day is where I'm going to work hard. A healthy day is where I'm not going to work hard, but I got out there. And so I'm still further ahead than I would have been otherwise. So play the games a little bit. Do what works for you. We're all a little different in our psychology and our methodology. And so you recognize that. Again, it goes back to the sociocultural differences that we all have as well. And that's what we spoke about yesterday in the Latino group is, you know, the things that they consume and what their go-to foods are. And so that starts to make a difference and recognize that, okay, you know, I mean, ours is white rice. I mean, to convert us to brown rice, we've tried. We kind of go the half-half, and then we do the quinoa half-half, and it actually makes the rice a little bit lighter, and you don't notice it as much, and it's the same amount of water, so you don't have to change your go-to, you know, one-finger cooking method. So figure it out in your own groups. And that's where I also would encourage you to start reaching out to each other. You know, engage. Some of you have friends that are here. You got a built-in support system. So reach out to them and say, what are you doing? Because you're hearing the same information now. So what strategies are you doing? And start to make this family work for you, that there are people that you know. Reach out. You're not on this journey alone.
Yeah. One goal at a time. One goal at a time. That's what we want to work towards. This was wonderful. Were there any other questions that we can help answer? Anything that you guys want to hear more about next week? Also, feel free to email me if anything comes to mind. You have my email in the chat box.
I do have a question, actually, just because I should be doing my own research too, I'm guessing, but I know chia seeds were very trendy, I think. You know, so, but then how is there a website that we can go to get, you know, the actual facts about it?
Yeah, actually, so there's a website called Calorie King. It's a really good resource that'll tell you, like, break down the nutrients in almost any food in any way it's prepared. So it'll say like baked salmon, raw eggs, you know, like, and then you can put in the portion sizes, so you could like get the calorie or the nutrition information for 1 egg or 10 eggs, you know. So you put in the portion sizes and it'll break down all the nutrients in that food, and you can do your own research and see. Also, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics is what Dr. Lisagor wrote. But these are, you know, you can look online and find out more. But again, I really do want to emphasize, don't obsess too much about the breakdown. If you enjoy chia seeds, and it says, I know it's some people love putting it in their drinks and drinking it throughout the day. It's a great food. It's a seed. So enjoy it. Don't obsess too much. But if you want to know more about it, there are websites that will give you a nutrient breakdown of the food if you want to know more.
The only reason I asked is because I heard wonders of coconut oil. So I went, you know, Costco, bought the big jugs of coconut oil, and then I found out that it's not really that healthy, I guess.
So there is a lot of saturated fat in coconut oil, but Dr. Lisagor, is it? So I'm not quite sure if it's the same type of saturated fat as found in like meats and other.
What you have seen and what I have seen, because I have a much longer lifespan, is that there are nutrition trends that cycle through every 6 to 8 years. So we call it something different: the high protein diet, the low carbohydrate diet, the saturated fat diet. All of those things, they've been around for forever. And so the chia seed was one of those things, but there's nothing magical about a chia seed, except when a company finds that chia seeds are popular, they're going to up the price of it, and they're going to put it in everything. And it goes back to balance, variety, moderation, exercise. And really, there's nothing magic in a chia seed that would be different from something else. And yes, so coconut oil is plant-based, whereas like animal flesh is obviously animal-based. So, but there's still, if you have enough of it, it would take more coconut oil to get to the level of saturated fat that you'd get from eating a 3-ounce piece of meat. But again, it's moderation. My recommendation is majority plant-based foods in their whole forms, and that's what Sahar said, in their whole forms, and throw in exercise, and try, as Desiree said, don't obsess. And what somebody had recommended last week, which is spot on, is the colors of the rainbow on your plate, right? And throughout the day. One of the little things that I stuck in there is your mother always said, eat breakfast. And that was not an old wives' tale, but if you think about the two words that form breakfast, it's breaking the fast. So we go to sleep. We don't eat throughout the night usually, unless you sleepwalk and know just where your refrigerator is or the candy. But so in the morning, we break the fast, and depending on how many hours of sleep you've had, your blood sugar level, your blood glucose level can be dropped. So you want to start the day with something nutritionally dense that's going to get into your bloodstream, that's going to help your brain to think and your heart to beat, and your basal metabolic rate going. But Sahar, spot on with everything that you have recommended for everybody. Really good. Great job.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for letting me be a part of your morning this morning, everyone. I appreciate you joining me. I'm not ready to hang up. If anyone else has any other questions I can help answer. Or again, feel free to email me and we can discuss next Wednesday, same time, 10 a.m.
My take home is less flesh and less pus.
See, you're never going to forget that, are you?
That's disgusting, but I get it.
Thank you so much,
so
everyone.
If we were going to have a holiday where you think about mayonnaise on a sandwich, I bet you won't do that.
Thank you very much, Sahar.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Again, email me if anything comes to mind, any topics you want to cover next week. I look forward to it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Terry.
Great job.
Have a good day, everyone. Stay healthy.
Have a good one, everyone. We'll see you later.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Josh, for hosting and taking care of the PowerPoint. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Thanks. Take care.
We'll see you all.
See you. Bye-bye. Bye, Dr. Alyssa Gore. Thanks for your help.